It may only be November, but the new year is just around the corner. That's what we're talking about today on the Must Increase podcast. Welcome to the Must Increase podcast, where we equip you to communicate your message, reach more people, and ultimately increase his name through your church. I am Luke Clayton, your host, and I'm joined by the man himself, producer Bo Snyder. Bo, how's it going?
Good. Always good to be here.
Doing good.
You always set me up so nicely.
I do.
It's very kind of you.
It's pretty simple because usually they're, how's it going? Welcome back. So
Right,
like,
yeah.
I need to get out of the ordinary. Think of another question to ask.
I'm always like, what's he going to say?
Yeah. I'll start coming up with a crazy question for you.
Catch me off guard one of these times.
Yeah. Well, so we are getting into the holiday season, as we would say. And so last week we talked about preparing for Christmas. Well, we're going to change gears a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about not necessarily a holiday, though it's celebrated as a holiday, I suppose. Yeah. And we're going to talk about the new year.
Yes.
And it's like, wait, hold up, Luke. It's only November. We got a long time till the new year.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Truth be known, in January of 2019, I was like, we got a long time till November.
2019 has
and it's
flown.
Here.
I mean, it's funny. 2020, I saw something for a new car that's coming out in 2020 or something, and I saw that 2020. I was like, that's a long way off. I was like, wait a minute, that's like just around the corner.
Yeah. I remember being a kid. This is so random, but I remember being a kid and opening up like a yearbook. I was in like second grade. I'm going through like a yearbook and I'm looking at all the things, and they have the class of whatever, you know. So it's like class of 2009. That's when I graduated. Yeah. And I was like, that'll never be here.
That'll never happen.
Or whatever. And then when I get now, I was teaching at a school here a few years ago, right. And so I was flipping through the yearbook, and it was like, class of 2020. I was like, class of 2020, as if that'll happen.
Yeah.
And here it is. Yeah. Here it is. So
New Year's come. Yeah. I love the new year. I do, because two things. It's a fresh start, obviously, but the other side of that is this time of year, November, early December. It's that classic time when almost every single person in some way or another goes, oh boy, I had all these goals. Yeah. I was going to lose all this weight. I was going to save all this money. I was going to buy this and, take this trip and whatever. Yep. And it's just that classic time of like, oh, I didn't accomplish half of those. And it's not all bad. It's just, but that's the second part that's good is, oh, you get a fresh start.
Exactly.
But this is what we're talking about today when it comes to churches is, were there a lot of things that you had planned early 2019? Hey, I am going to change that website. I am going to start doing this, implementing this, and, I haven't done it. So the bad news is 2019 is almost over.
It's coming to an end.
But the good news is 2020 is almost here.
Exactly.
So that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, and you say, and that happens. I mean, there's so many goals that get set that don't get achieved.
Sure.
And honestly, I don't think that's so much of a bad thing. I don't think that's something to necessarily always get down on yourself about.
Right.
Because in my opinion, if you have goals that are always achievable, you're not really pushing yourself enough. If it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to make this goal because I know for sure I can meet it. Well, okay, like my goal is to be on time to work tomorrow. Well, you probably do that every day, so good for you. Now, if you're struggling like sleeping in and oversleeping or whatever, then that's a great goal, But if you said, hey, my goal is to wake up 1 hour earlier and start going to the gym or something like that, well, there you go. That's a little bit of, that's
out of the ordinary.
Exactly.
That is a very worthy goal if you accomplish it.
Yeah. So, so that's, when it comes to making goals, that's my first thought. My second thought is this. A lot of times I think the reason, maybe not in your personal life, but definitely in the fact of your church, that you make goals and you don't meet them, is you wait too late to get started on them.
Sure.
Because if you say, well, my goal is in 2020 to do this, well, a lot of times we wait until 2020 to start. And it's like, well, you've got to start thinking about it now, because once January hits, January 1st, or let's say January 2nd, because January 1st is a holiday, but whatever. Once that first week of January comes and you get the ball rolling, well, you really need to have a plan. You need to know where to start. Hey, in week 1 or month 1, we're doing this, and then we're doing this, and so on and so forth. And so now is the time to start planning.
Right.
And of course, it's funny. We've kind of been talking about planning a lot.
Yeah, we're always talking about planning, preparation.
We discussed it the last episode in context of Christmas.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to kind of take an even bigger step back and a bigger overview, if you will, of now we're going to plan as far as what's coming up in the new year. So something to remember, though, is that planning isn't a one-time event.
No.
It's an ongoing process.
Yep.
So you can't just say, well, you know what, we had a planning meeting here last quarter. That's great.
That's great.
And I've heard this said before. I think we said it before. One of the biggest mistakes you can make, the biggest mistake you make is to confuse thinking ahead for acting ahead. There's a huge difference. Just because you sat down and you wrote in your little planner that, hey, this is what I'm going to do today, doesn't mean that you did those things. It just means that you thought about it, which is a great step.
Right.
But
just because you put it on the calendar doesn't mean you can check it off.
Exactly. Just because you set the goal doesn't mean it stops
That's good.
there.
That's good.
And so it's so simple, yet really so profound.
Yeah.
Like we oftentimes think that, hey, setting the goal, having the thought, look at there.
It's a start.
It's a start.
It's a good start.
But it's nothing more than a start.
Right.
It is the starting point, and now you've got to get from there, from where you started, where you had the thought, where you set the goal, to actually achieving the goal. Right. And I think we have a way that works. And so, full disclosure, this is kind of what we do here at our at our business here, at our company here at Must Increase. We have weekly meetings where we plan the upcoming kind of campaigns or the next few big things, if you will. For example, right now, hey, we got Christmas. Well, we started planning that as far as what we would release for our Christmas packages, like back in like late August, early September. We started planning, really kind of getting serious about that.
And then once we had that planning meeting, then we checked back in October, like, hey, the material's ready. It's ready to go. We're going to start pushing it out.
Yep.
So we're always a few steps, a few months ahead of every campaign, everything that we push out.
So every once a week, we're touching base on kind of like, hey, here's what's coming up. Here's the next 2 or 3 things. Right. And setting deadlines and expectations, saying here's where we're coming on that.
Right. Example, I guarantee you we'll have a meeting in January about Easter.
Oh, yeah.
That's just what we'll do.
Sure.
We'll just do that. Like automatically. It's just like, 3 or 4 months ahead, we're going to do that. Might even sooner. I don't know. But maybe even sooner.
So here's kind of the workflow or the process that we've used in terms of planning and kind of preparing for the things coming up. Now, with a church, you've got to, first, I think you've got to categorize the nature of the goals you have.
Yes.
So first of all, there are, I think in church, we have 3 categories. And I think we rehearsed these a little bit back in a few episodes ago when we were talking about making a plan, level 3 of the 7 levels. And so, but it's good stuff to kind of repeat. So the three different, I guess, categories are events, projects, and vision.
Yes.
So when it comes to events, obviously those are dates on the calendar. Christmas, Easter, anything else that you're doing, obviously your weekly services, that's all an event of some nature. And so those are your events. Then you have your projects. And those are things that are a little bit, they're not tied to a date, and that it's not like, hey, we're planning for an event here, but maybe it's, we want to launch a new program, we want to design a new logo, we want to do something different, redesign the website. Okay. All of these are projects. And then the last one is a category in and of itself, though. If you were to really look into it, well, you could probably define it as an event or a project. Well, then we're looking at vision. So vision are ideas that you have that maybe for events, maybe for projects, or maybe you're just not quite even sure, but you just know for sure that they're very much long-term ideas and long-term goals.
Yeah.
And so it's always good to make that distinction right off, because you might say, hey, here's a good question to ask. Do we have the resources, the finances, the whatever it may be Do we have that in place now to achieve this goal? If the answer is no, then it's vision, because you say, hey, we know that there's some things that are going to have to happen first, some goals that we're going to have to accomplish, some events that are going to have to, and some projects we're going to have to get finished in order for us to even really be able to accomplish this. So that's when you place it in the vision category. So you've got the 3 categories there. And then we say to help you kind of divide everything up into 4 different, that we called those categories. This is 4 different, I guess, stages of where you're at on terms of accomplishing that. So we've got 4 of these. We've got overview. Overview is you're looking ahead in the next 12 to 18 months.
Yep.
So that's a pretty big picture.
It is, yeah.
All right, so overview, and then the second is outlook. And outlook, we're looking to the next 6 to 8 months. And then the next one is looking at upcoming. And in upcoming, we're looking at the next probably 3 to 4 months. And in immediate, which is the next one, immediate, we are looking at the next 1 to 2 weeks, or 1 to 2 weeks, and sometimes 1 week to a month. Really, it just depends on the nature of what's coming up. But that is what you do. And so some people say, okay, well that sounds great. Well, how do we stay on top of that? And the truth is, for us, we have a weekly meeting. Where we discuss this, because we have so much content that we crank out, we really have to stay weekly on top of this. This may be too often for you, but you need to have a regular meeting where you are revisiting items in all of those stages. Yeah. So you're saying, okay, this is something that's an overview. It's time to move that to outlook, because whereas that was 12 to 18 months out, and now it's 6 to 8 months. Yeah. And the 6 to 8 month stuff, the stuff that, hey, a few months ago, for example, back in the summer, Christmas was falling in the outlook category. Well, now it's definitely in the upcoming category.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because when we have our meetings and we look at these things, there's rarely anything that ever surprises us completely. There's never anything that we ever really look at like, oh, we haven't thought of that in a year. Yeah. It's, even though we haven't necessarily spent a lot of time on it, we've touched on it. We've reminded ourselves like, hey, this is coming up, or now it's getting a little bit closer. So even if we're not going to address it right at that moment, our minds have begun to kind of start clicking or turning our wheels, I guess. Yeah. And say, it's just you're kind of, you got your immediate, and then like, okay, I'm still thinking of that. It just kind of keeps it fresh in your mind, even if you're not concentrating on it all the time, if that makes sense.
So always revisiting each of these stages in every meeting. Yes, like you said, it keeps the wheels turning. It keeps you saying, hey, this may be a little bit ways out, but it gets you thinking about it. And so, and I will say this too, it's not that every week we're looking at what's happening 1 year from now.
No.
But I would say we're at least looking at that at least once every 1 to 2 months.
Sure.
We're saying, okay, hey, what's coming up? So depending on, the how soon things in these certain stages are coming, is if you decide, well, we need to talk about that weekly, we can get away with talking about that monthly, or maybe we can get away with talking about that quarterly.
Yep.
But the point is that each of these stages needs to be regularly discussed, and it doesn't need to be something that you well, you know what, it's 12 to 18 months. Let's wait 12 to 18 months to talk about it again.
Right.
Well, because by the time the next 12 months rolls around, that thing is, boom, it's there.
This might seem, I don't know if this is a good example or not, I'm just going to throw it out there, is in life, no matter what it is, just money investing comes to my mind here, is when it comes to goals, people just think they're automatically going to happen. Like they're just one big thing is going to make it happen. But how do people make money with investing? It's time. It's a consistent thing just over a long period of time. So it's not one meeting. It's not 2 days of working hard on something. Yeah. It's a whole year of just consistent attention that is going to get these things done for you, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And it's the same thing could apply to like fitness. Like
anything.
The guy who is super fit, that guy, it's not like he overnight, like he was fat and then he woke up with a six pack. Right. It's a super obvious statement, but he consistently over time had a daily, if you will, a daily meeting with himself where he said, you know what, we're going to work on this. We're going to exercise, we're going to eat better, whatever. And that's really what we're talking about, is if you have a goal of saying, hey, we want to achieve these goals, you've got to have a regular time that you are revisiting those goals, and that you're saying, oh, okay, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing this week or this month to get us one step closer to that goal.
We're always trying to give people extra tips and tools they can use, because we use Asana, right?
Yeah, yes, we do.
I was just trying to figure out, what's, like me, I'm old school sometimes. I'm like, I want to be like, hey, get on a piece of paper and write some things down right now that you can. But what is Asana a good tool? People can make tabs or Trello and say like, hey, every so often this thing is going to bump me. Yes, I do got to have this meeting. I do have to revisit this, because it's one thing to just think about something, but putting it down, putting it in your schedule.
Yep.
I just had that random thought. I like to give people as many touches as things that can help them, because they might not have a full office. They might be the only person like, hey, I've got to schedule these meetings, or it's not going to happen, or I've got to send reminders, or nobody's going to show up, or whatever. That's just kind of a quick.
You mentioned Asana, and I can really geek out on the tech of things.
I know you can.
But I will say that Asana, that's a great one. That's what we're currently using.
Okay.
And so Asana is one that is a great just collaboration project management software. They have a free version. You don't have to. They have a paid version, of course, but you can use it completely free. We use the free version. It's more than enough for what we need.
Yeah.
Then there's Trello. That's another one. So Trello is a similar concept to Asana. There's of course some differences, and then there's a lot of them out there in terms of like these project management. One that I kind of stumbled across recently was ClickUp, is what it's called.
Okay.
I'd never heard of it before, and I stumbled across it, and it was really interesting. It's got a very like Asana Trello feel, but it's got a lot of interesting features. So I'm actually considering using that for some things, just based on the nature of the project of what we're doing. Airtable's another one. Airtable is a little bit more of we use this for like databases and stuff.
Yeah.
So keeping track of contact information and certain processes and things. There's all kinds of technology out there, but I do think it's important to highlight that if you're working with multiple, a team, and you've got multiple people, there needs to be a central hub.
Yes.
And if that's Asana, if that's Trello, honestly, being digital, in my opinion, having a digital form of it is best.
Yeah. Because
then it doesn't matter where you're at. You can see it, you can look at it, you can access it and update it. But, I've even seen it used to where people, it's an actual physical one. They have a nice whiteboard where they've got different, I saw one where it's like a whiteboard, like a huge calendar basically. And they've kind of got sticky notes that represent their goals and their tasks, and then they move those sticky notes date around on each date to set deadlines and stuff. Hey, whatever. You just need to have a central place.
Right.
And I'll tell you this, though, as we think about all this, I always say this: use what works for you, use what works for your team, but don't be afraid to give something new a try, because the only risk you take is that this isn't cool. We're not going to use it, and I don't mean like getting on something and being on it for 5 minutes and getting frustrated because you're bad with technology. Oh, I'm never using that. But, hey, you might use it for a week. You might use it for a few. In fact, I think I remember it was a few months ago. I don't mean to dog on any particular software here, but I'm just going to use it as an example. Remember when we used Slack? Messaging.
Yes, I
messaging. Do. Now, I have heard people who they would die for Slack. They think it's amazing. And honestly, I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, it's awesome. It's great. It's awesome." So, I'd heard good things. And I was like, what? We're gonna implement this. We're gonna start using Slack for our inter-office communication. After about 3 weeks, I just was kind of over it.
Yeah.
And I think all of us were. We were kind of all like, you know what? This really isn't all that great. And we just found, that using something like Asana is much more effective for what we're doing.
Right.
But once again, I'm probably actually speaking productivity heresy there by bashing on Slack. I'm not bashing on it. I honestly see the value in it potentially.
But if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work
that was
for
the
you.
Point. Yeah. It didn't work for us. For me, it was just one more thing to try to keep up with, in addition to email and Asana and these other things. So, but if you're using Slack, great. I'm not bashing Slack. I think it has good application. But the point is that is the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
Is you use it for a little while and you say, you know what, it's not for us. We're not going to keep using it.
Right.
And so that we talked about categorizing your goals.
Yep.
So you're going to put them in projects, events, vision.
Yeah.
We're going to then divide them up into stages based on the deadlines that they're coming up. So we've got overview, outlook, upcoming, and immediate. And then, it's all about what tool you choose to use, using these different tools and trying new things, because the worst thing that can happen is that it's not for you. The best thing that can happen is it makes things much better and makes you much more efficient.
Right.
The worst thing that you can do in all of this is to say, you know what, all that's good and great, but you know what, Luke, we got Christmas here in a month. I can't think about this right now.
Yeah.
I tell you, that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen is you're going to get through Christmas, and then you're going to say, all right, maybe I should plan now. But no, we've got this coming up, and then we got. There's always
something.
There's always going to be something that seems more urgent and more immediate. And I could just tell you from experience, is honestly, I tend to be a procrastinator by nature. For us to implement what we have has been, it's really taken, like, I've kind of defied my habits and my old nature to do this. But I can tell you from experience, from someone who has just kind of lived like, if you will, just event to event, deadline to deadline. You hear about living paycheck to paycheck, people that, hey, they spend all the money and they're just, I got to have payday to make rent or whatever. And then other people that, hey, they're good savers and whatever, and they don't ever have that pressure. I think it's kind of the same way when it comes to your project management.
Sure.
Like, some people just live project to project, deadline to deadline. Okay, all right. The only thing that gets attention is the most immediate thing on the calendar.
They get something done, they take a deep breath, and then on to the panicking about the next one.
Yeah. And we've talked about, hey, making sure you're taking advantage of your downtime, capitalizing. Downtime is a great time to plan. But now is the time to start thinking about the new year, categorizing your different goals, setting deadlines, putting dates and deadlines and whatever to them, and then also looking at the tools you're going to use. And we want to mention we've done this the past 2 years, and this is the only time of the year that we offer this. But we've got Creative Team Pro. Of course, Creative Team Pro is the creative services that we offer. So video production, design, websites. We do it all through Creative Team Pro. And for the most part, Creative Team Pro is just a month-to-month cost, whatever. Once a year, like I said, we've done it for the past 2 years. So this is the time of year that we put out our offer for the annual deal on Creative Team Pro. So basically, you can get an entire year of creative service for just one cost. So one payment. So, and the benefit to that is that because we know by making that commitment, you are making a huge commitment to planning. And we think you need to be rewarded for that. So we give you actually 2 months for free. So you actually only wind up paying for about 10 months of service.
This is a fantastic deal. It is.
Yeah.
And what you just said, just the value. If you pay for something like that, you know how much on the ball you're going to be? I mean, you're going to look into your calendar and go, I know exactly what I want. I know exactly how I'm going to do this. And just that value in itself right there is huge, let alone, having us to right there to help you out and coach you. And,
now, I'll be very, very straight up. This is not something that a lot of people take us up on.
It's true.
Because they know the amount of commitment it takes. Those who have taken us up on this, they say, I know that this is a big commitment, but once again, we want to reward you for making that commitment by saying, hey, you're going to purchase an entire year of service, but you're actually only going to be paying for 10 months. We're going to give you 2 months of the year for free. So if you're interested in that, head over to creativeteampro.com/deal. Once again, this is the only time of year we make this offer, and it is good, until the end of the year. And so you can have plenty of time, because understand this is a big commitment. You need time to work with your other people on your team. Maybe you got to bring your pastor in on this decision. But we really believe that making a commitment like this is going to make a huge difference in the year ahead. So we wanted to mention that. It's creativeteampro.com/deal, and that's where you're going to find this offer. And we hope that if you don't take advantage of that offer, it's not for everybody. We get that.
Sure, of course.
But if nothing else, make the commitment to start planning for the new year now.
Yep.
Well, hey, we love talking about this stuff. We love helping you think ahead, and it has been a good episode. Now, in the next episode, we've actually got something we've been looking forward to for a long time here.
Yes.
Next week, on the podcast is Church Appreciation Week. It's Thanksgiving week. It's
week,
Black Friday week. So we have just got an episode packed full of giveaways, of offers, of deals, just as a way of saying thank you for being a part of Must Increase, for listening to the podcast, for being involved. And so we're looking forward to that.
Right. You're going to want to listen to this one. And this is, if you've ever had a time where you want to like invite someone to listen, have them listen to this one, like, hey, because we're going to be giving away some stuff. We are giving some good deals on stuff. Yeah. We are. I mean, it's just that time of year. And like you said, there's so many people out there who listen. We want to give good deals too. So we couldn't think of a better time than Black Friday. So, I mean, episode is still going out on Monday. That's still... But just still kind of in honor of that Thanksgiving Black Friday week. So
it's Church Appreciation Week next week on the Must Increase podcast. So be sure to listen. And as always, shout out to our associate producer, Jonas Clayton, for his help in producing these podcasts. And of course, for the main producer himself, Bo Snyder, and myself, we want to thank you for joining us here on the Must Increase podcast, where we equip you to communicate your message, reach more people, and ultimately increase his name through your church.